Every empire, every global system, every financial order has one thing in common. It relies on faith. Faith in money, in promises, in treaties, in contracts written on paper or etched in code. And every empire, every system, eventually tests that faith. The United States, for decades, has been the custodian of global trust. Its dollar, backed not by gold but by the unyielding force of global demand and military reach, has been the world's reserve currency. Oil trades in dollars. Commodities are priced in dollars. Debts are calculated in dollars. A web so entwined that for decades it seemed unbreakable. But history has a way of reminding us that no order is permanent. No dominance eternal. Consider the role of gold. For centuries, gold was the anchor of civilization. From the Roman aureus to the British sovereign. From the gold standard of the early 20th century to the secret reserves nations still guard today. Gold has been the ultimate form of trust. It is tangible, it cannot be printed, it cannot be arbitrarily debased. Governments can promise paper, they can sign treaties, they can print endlessly, but gold does not lie. And when the illusion of trust in paper fails, gold remains, quietly, immutably, as the benchmark of real value. Oil, though different in nature, carries the same weight in modern geopolitics. It fuels armies, economies, and lifestyles. The petrodollar system, established decades ago, created a unique bond between energy, finance, and global hegemony. Countries that sell oil in dollars create demand for the currency. Countries that hold dollars effectively participate in the United States economic authority. It is not just a matter of money, it is power, and power, as history repeatedly proves, attracts challenges. Enter BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, a coalition of nations that, individually, wield influence, and collectively, are reshaping the contours of global economics. To the casual observer, BRICS may appear as an economic bloc, a forum for dialogue, a cooperative network. But for those who study history closely, who track gold flows, oil agreements, and strategic reserves, it is clear that BRICS represents a quiet, deliberate counterweight to a dollar-centric world. It is not a rebellion made overnight. It is a blueprint, decades in the making, and for those who understand patterns, its rise is predictable yet profound. Consider Russia and China, two nations whose histories have been marked by invasions, sanctions, and economic isolation. Both have quietly accumulated gold, steadily, almost imperceptibly, building reserves that now rival some of the world's largest economies. This is not a speculative hobby. It is insurance. It is leverage. It is preparation for a world where trust in the dollar may falter. Oil agreements, too, have been quietly reshaped. Russia's energy partnerships with China, India, and other BRICS members bypass the traditional dollar pipeline. Every barrel sold in yuan or rubles chips away at a system that has dominated since Bretton Woods. History has a rhythm to it. Rome collapsed under the weight of debt and debased currency. France tore itself apart with assignats and revolutions. Even the United States, during the Civil War, saw the greenback's value tested against inflation and uncertainty. Each collapse had its constants. Those who trusted blindly suffered, those who held tangible assets survived, and those who understood the underlying forces, whether gold, land, or labor, thrived. BRICS seems to be acting on the same timeless understanding. Accumulate what cannot be destroyed, diversify what cannot be inflated away, and position strategically before the crisis arrives. This is where the idea of a secret blueprint becomes tangible. It is not secret in the sense of clandestine. It is secret because it is invisible to those who do not study the undercurrents of global finance. The blueprint is simple in principle but profound in execution. Leverage natural resources, procure precious metals, establish alternative trade systems, and create financial instruments that anchor value outside the dollar's reach. Each move is deliberate, each action a hedge against an order that cannot last forever. Look closely at gold production and acquisition. China, for instance, has been quietly increasing domestic production while simultaneously importing gold to stockpile reserves. Russia has sold fewer dollars and accumulated gold at record rates, signaling a shift in trust. South Africa remains a mining powerhouse. Brazil holds agricultural wealth and commodities. India accumulates both currency and raw materials. Together, the BRICS nations are stitching a network that ties real assets, the only form of money that has survived every collapse in history, into their collective economic strategy. And oil. Oil is more than energy. It is leverage. Agreements to trade energy outside of dollars are not merely economic. They are signals. They tell the world that dependence on the dollar is optional, that alliances can be realigned, that the flow of money and power can shift overnight. These actions echo history's lessons. When Britain's pound dominated, it was anchored by trade, colonies, and naval supremacy. When the dollar rose, it was anchored by global wartime trust, military might, and energy dominance. The pattern is clear. Currencies are only as strong as the assets and trust behind them. BRICS is quietly stacking both. The West often overlooks these shifts, distracted by politics, consumption, and short-term metrics. But history is patient. It waits for systems to crack, The Byzantine solidists, once impenetrable, eventually faltered when trust wavered. The assignats of revolutionary France crumbled when promises outran reality. And today, the dollar, while dominant, carries vulnerabilities, massive debt, political polarization, and a global system that is increasingly BRICS, watches, calculates, and prepares, just as prudent actors always have throughout history. This first section of the story is not about panic, it is about understanding. The rise of BRICS is not sudden, it is the product of strategic patience, resource accumulation, and a recognition of history's immutable patterns. Gold, oil, and trust are the pillars. The blueprint is simple to describe but hard to ignore. Secure what cannot be printed, create trade systems outside the old order, and position for influence before the old world falters. By the time we look at the next stage, a potential BRICS-backed world currency, we will see how these deliberate moves could shift power globally. For now, the lesson is in the preparation. Those who understand the historical constants, real assets, energy control, diversification can anticipate the consequences that others will only feel too late. In every collapse, every realignment, there are winners and losers. History teaches us that trust alone is not enough. Faith in paper is fragile. True resilience comes from tangible assets, strategic positioning, and the foresight to see cracks before they widen. BRICS is not acting impulsively. It is acting on lessons written in the blood and gold of centuries past. And for those paying attention, the signals are clear. A new order is being quietly assembled, anchored in the only things history shows are truly durable.